Welcome back, our co-hosts from the first half hour, retired Admiral, former president of the Berkeley County Commission, Mr. Bill Stubblefield.
Rob, good morning. Great to be here as always, especially on Friday.
And he didn't know it at the time. He was laying the blame on something that happened in the past on somebody he didn't know who it was. It turned out it was Bill he was blaming. The Badger's back, Sergeant Michael Height.
That's right. It doesn't matter who's at fault. Somebody was at fault.
It's fun to see the Badger back.
Welcome back.
Good to be here.
60-day hiatus from your seat. It was filled in on occasion by Alonzo Perry, mainly by John Gilstrap.
Yeah, it feels very comfortable right now. It
looks like hand in glove.
Yeah, I think it's enjoying me just as much as I'm enjoying it.
But the chair moved to the right while you were gone, though, Mike.
Well, it'll settle back in.
Also, he is the longest tenured member of our crew, former tax commissioner of the state of West Virginia, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning, everybody. Good to be here.
Good to have you with us, sir.
Well, every day goes by, it's good for me to make it to the day.
Oh, very good for you. Also, yesterday I could not have butchered his introduction more with inaccurate statements, but in my defense, we're breaking in a new mattress. I got almost no sleep Wednesday night into Thursday. I had no idea what I was saying most of the day. So let's which is bad for this job, by the way. You couldn't ask for much worse of a job if this was your problem, and it was my problem yesterday. Mr. John Doyle, how are you?
Good morning, everybody. I am in superb condition.
Oh, you are?
Wow. I am.
Good for you.
And someone off air called you the Whisperer.
I don't know where that came from. Admiral, I may have whispered at one time, but in officer candidate school in the Army, they drilled in that your voice has to come from the diaphragm so that it can project. And I think I forgot to whisper.
As somebody who runs the sound levels on this board, I can promise you John's not whispering. Via telephone, attorney at law Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti. Welcome back, Joe.
Rob, I'm struck by your comment that you got very little sleep the other night because you were breaking in a new mattress. Now, perhaps you don't care to elaborate what you do to break in a new mattress.
It's a Phil McCoy moment.
I can tell you I've not had a problem sleeping on a new mattress. So, just observation I'm trying to make here.
Let me just say that at 63 after prostate cancer surgery, trying to sleep is how I'm trying to break in a new mattress. Yeah. So any further questions about that, Joe? Feel free to cross-examine as the attorney at law.
No, I'll rest my case.
At 10:46 this morning, we start spring, by the way. So that makes this March equinox. And among other things, March 20th is known for is the International Day of Happiness. Also, it is known as World Storytelling Day. World Oral Health Day, so I hope you all flossed on your way here today, and National Proposal Day. So if this is the day for you to put that ring on somebody's finger, it's National Proposal Day. Height's looking at Stubblefield's looking at Height.
No.
I think we're all covered.
Stubblefield's looking at the door trying to get out of here.
I think we're all covered.
So if that's part of your day today, may I recommend to you a trip to L.A. Roberts Jewelers in downtown Martinsburg, one of the fine sponsors of this program. With issue number 1 to start the day, Mr. Joe Ferretti, the clock is yours as well as the microphone, sir.
Okay, well, my issue, of course, has to do with data centers, and hopefully this will dovetail nicely from your previous segment with Commissioner Gokenauer. And by the way, I too applaud the county commissioners for having this forum this evening. They potentially could be stepping into the lion's den here, but hopefully the crowd will have a substantive and calm discussion regarding the issues. That's the only way you're going to get people like the power company to be willing to come forward and speak about these issues themselves. So hope that goes well. And I'm also glad we have Mike Height in the studio this morning because I know from his past comments, he is, I think it's fair to say, Mike, a proponent of these data centers.
Yes.
You think it's going to be a good thing for the state. And we'll be interested in your thoughts on this subject. But I want to give a quote from a governor the former governor of Virginia, and that's Republican Glenn Youngkin, who was confronted with a bill from his legislature, which was to centralize control of the regulations for data centers in the state of Virginia. When the bill came to his desk, the governor vetoed it, and that killed the bill, and the legislature took up no further action. And in the state of Virginia, every municipality, every township, every county has the right to vet and approve data centers being located in those areas. And the state of Virginia has been very successful in getting data centers, over 500 at the most recent count, one of the top numbers in the entire country in terms of data center locations. The governor said that the bill, which was going to give the central control for the regulations in Richmond, the bill created unnecessary red tape. And he said, quote, while well-intentioned, the legislature imposes a one-size-fits-all approach on communities that are best positioned to make their own decisions. Data centers represent an immense opportunity for localities around this Commonwealth, especially those that don't already have them, Youngkin said in his veto message. What has developed in the state of Virginia is very interesting. While some would fear that local control, the local imposition of all kinds of things, setback provisions, you name it, would deter data centers from locating there, the opposite is true. Again, they've been one of the most successful states in the country for getting these. And what we have seen in the state of Virginia is actually counties competing against each other, because as Mike Height will undoubtedly say, having a data center in your community is not a bad thing. And so the competition amongst the localities has given them the best of both worlds. The opportunity for the economic development and the creation of a tax base that helps the local citizenry, while the local citizens have control over what is built, how it's managed. That is the best of both worlds. And I fear, and I think, that was lost on our state legislature. And what we have in West Virginia is the centralized control, the waiver of all local regulations and ordinances, and the lack of control with the local citizens, which is what is leading to, I think, fear and anger over our situation. Perhaps it's unfounded, but that's what we have in West Virginia. So as we go to this meeting tonight, and as we continue to think about the development of data centers in West Virginia, here's my question. Do you all feel that the state will be capable of addressing what are uniquely local issues, such as setback provisions for homes, noise limits, what Berkeley County has a noise ordinance, light emission, design requirements, environmental impact studies, buffers? The local municipalities and townships across this country actually dictate how much vegetation is going to be planted outside the buildings so that there is some sort of buffer, some sort of viewscape that is not just a big building in someone's backyard. These are things that the locals are going to be most concerned about. I'm wondering if we have the confidence that the state, the DEP, and all the environmental folks at the state level are going to get into those kinds of that kind of granularity when it comes to approving these data centers. So that's my question this morning. Can we rely on the state? Are you confident that the state is going to honor local concerns of the citizens who are going to be looking at these monstrosities every day?
I want to read a comment from Delegate Mike Hornby in the comment section. In the end, we needed one set of rules statewide, not an interpretation from 55 different counties. All permits and EPA guidelines still need to be followed. The Rulemaking Review Committee worked closely with the agency to create the rules. On that note, first, Bill Stubblefield, you take this one on. Number one.
Mike Hornby, I disagree with you off the bat. You mentioned, Joe, was the state capable? the state is capable, but will they listen to the needs of the local counties? We have a couple of state agencies that we frequently work with. One would be DEP, another one's the Department of Highways. In my experience with either one of those, they're not particularly receptive to the county needs or the local needs. They have their marching orders, and their marching orders is you, the county, you, the local residents, will abide by our decisions because we have all the cards. And basically, they do have the cards. So I don't see anything changing with the data centers from that. Plus the fact that we had a perfect example in Berkeley County of a data center, and that's the one going in with hospice. They were prior to 2014. They responded, or they fell under the state ordinances. Or the county ordinances, I should say. I have not heard any problem whatsoever with the hospice that's going, the data centers adjacent to the hospice. People have accepted that. There's no flags up. There's no signs say go away. No data centers like we have in other parts of the county. The system that we have set up in the past has worked. And I'm not sure I can understand, I do not understand, the position of our legislators that we have to have one size fit all. We've never had one size fit all. Local control has served the local residents very, very, very well. Why should local control not serve the residents equally well with these data centers? We have it with hospice. Why don't we have it with the others?
Delegate Michael Hite, you voted yes on the data centers. Let's
I
let's have it
did,
out.
and I'll start with I don't. Delegate Hornby just stated facts, so I'm not sure what you're disagreeing with. The facts that he stated are the facts. The reason for it, that the fact that they have to go through rules, whether or not data centers have to follow rules or not, they follow a state set of rules rather than local control rules. And I think that was probably the hang up that most legislators had with that particular bill, is the fact that there wasn't as much local control as all of us would have liked. But I think when they put the rules in place, I think they tried to be as strict as possible. That the data centers, there were entities that wanted to come into West Virginia and build multiple data centers, not just, an entity here, an entity there, but multiple data centers around the state. And all they asked for was, we need to know what the rules are ahead of time. We don't want 55 different sets of rules to come in and do this. And I think that's what the legislature and the governor tried to accommodate, is to make, all right, here are the rules. And we're going to make them strict. It's not like they're not strict. It's not like they don't have to go through the EPA. It's not like they don't have to do a lot of these studies. They just wanted to know what the rules were up front. And they also didn't want to go into a county that was going to be adamantly opposed to anything, and then we're going to set a whole bunch of other ordinances or rules in place to eliminate the ability for a data center to come there. So I think that's why it happened. I don't think any legislator was overly happy with the loss of local control, but they understood what was going on. Delegate Hornby's right. A lot of that stuff went into rules. He's on the rules committee, and they sat as a legislature in rules and made a lot of those decisions. So I honestly, I don't see what the large problems are with data centers. We didn't have these protests when it was P&G coming, or Clorox, or Macy's, or a lot of these other different large scale buildings that have light emissions and all these other things, lots of people going in, traffic, all those things. I don't remember seeing all the protests about them, but now these data centers are the boogeyman, and I think a lot of that is because there is misinformation. So I'm hoping that this meeting that happens this weekend or this week, tonight alleviates a lot of that stuff.
Former Delegate John Doyle.
The problem, Mike, with your theory, it starts at the beginning. the reason there were no protests about Clorox and that sort of thing, they were not exempted from any local rules. The property tax money from Clorox was not grabbed by the state to put into the state treasury. It stayed with local government. The 26 years I was in the legislature, and I was a Democrat in the majority for 22 of those. And I was arguing all the time with my Democratic colleagues that too much of the time we wanted all the decisions made in Charleston. I would submit to you that over the last 50 years, we have been one of the least successful economies of the 50 states. And we have just about the most local control. And I think that is causation. And the irony is that all the time I was in the majority, my Republican friends in the minority agreed with me that we need to have more government at the local level. The mantra was that government is best, which is closest to the people. And I was one of the few Democrats that agreed with that. And a double irony, now that the Republicans are in charge, they seem to now think we have to make all the decisions at the state level. And we're still bumping along the bottom when it comes to the economy. And it is because the more of the decision that is made at the local level, the more the public buys into it. And that is why all these other states that have data centers, they have these local control rules. The taxes stay at the local level. And I just think it's clear as day that if you want public buy-in, let the local governments have an important say.
Mr. Carl.
I find the contrast between the two delegates interesting. But the important one is that the one that's now in the majority, that's why West Virginia is better off than when the other party, the Democrats, were running the state for a long, long time.
We're still bumping along the bottom.
It's still, but we're getting better, and we're chances are better. And this, I think, this initiative and project is an example of that. West Virginia was held back by the Charleston Democrat Party, and we had no calls locally at all, and now we have a good balance, and I think that's because we've changed parties, so that's.
But your thought about how this party has handled the data center is the issue here, Mike.
Well, I think it's handled it well.
So you believe in the top-down approach?
Well, I have to limit what I'm saying here because, my
law firm,
me and my law firm were involved. I was just involved in the tax aspects of the.
All right, let's take the data center specific out
of the legislation.
In regards to your political philosophy, do you believe that a top-down approach is best, whereas a state capital should be the one in charge of the local economy?
It needs to be a mixture. I'm not going to say yes or no on top-down. It needs to be a mixture.
But to John's argument, I don't know that the problems that the public has with the data center have to do with loss of local control. I think it has more to do with data centers and what they consume. Are they going to increase my utility bills? Are they going to use up valuable water resources? Those are the issues it seems like the public has with data centers. It's not about loss of local control.
That's the substance. But the problem is, if you have a problem that can be solved to some degree at the local level, the public feels a lot better because they can complain to their county commission or their city council and say, fix this problem. When you say to somebody, sorry, you got to complain to the Public Service Commission or the DEP, they go, that's way off in Charleston, and they're not going to listen to me.
Bill.
Yeah, I was going to say, I disagree with you, Mike. I think the issue with the public is loss of control, local control. The local control can, in fact, address these issues of water, electricity, and the like. That's what they do every day in the subdivision ordinance. Now we've moved all of that decision making to the state level. Do they have the same appreciation of our electrical needs, our water problems, I don't think they do have to the level that our county commissioners have. So I disagree with you, Mike. I think that the bulk of the resistance, bulk of the pushback is the loss of the local control and all the ramifications of local control.
I think the observation is one and the same. Before we go back to Joe to close it up, and I'll explain here, Mike and the rest of the room. If the decision to bring a data center in is made at the county level, then the county at that point has all the information and can answer the public's questions about how much water, how much power. The county can also refuse that data center because they can go to their local public utility commission and public water service district and say, do we have the water to supply this? And they can say yes or no. And then we have that answer locally. Right now what we have is, we're the state. Here's where the data center is going. Can't tell you any information until it's built. Now, that's unsettling to a lot of people for a really good reason, because you don't have the answers to your questions. You don't have the information. Why? Because at the local level, you didn't get a chance to get that information because you have no control over it. That's the issue. And I'll say that I'm not anti-data center at all. I've got one on my way to my house. It's 2 miles from my house. I pass it on the way in. I pass it on the way out. It doesn't know me. I don't know it. and I don't have an issue with it being there.
They still have to get all the same permits that they had to get before. They still have to go through a process like any other company. They have to go through the DEP.
They do, Mike. But again, if this went through the county government's approval process, they would have the answers to those questions already, and then so would the public. Right now, what the county commissioners know is the same as what the public knows, which is there's a data center coming.
Why do we have local ordinances? With following your logic, Mike, let's just give all the ordinances to the state and let them just make all the decisions.
I prefaced my whole argument with that's the part I don't like. I don't like the fact that we don't have local control. I get that. I understand it. But I'm saying it's not the big boogeyman that everybody's making it out to be. They still have to follow certain regulations that they would have had to follow even at the local level.
Back to you, Joe. 2 minutes to wrap it up.
Yeah, and Mike, I'm like Rob stated, I'm too rather agnostic about these data centers. I think there are pros and cons. Now, I think you and Mike Hornby and others have accurately indicated what happened in Charleston. The industry came to you all down there and said, look, we don't want 55 sets of regulations. Well, I can tell you we have local regulations in Georgia, and we have 120 counties. So the industry is faced with 120 different sets of regulations. The Georgia legislature said, no, we're going to have local control. It took an evening's worth of research for me to determine that West Virginia is an outlier when it comes to how they're approaching these data centers. Almost all other states in this country have maintained local control. These data center companies are having to negotiate with townships and county commissions to get their plant built. And as I indicated here about a month ago, there's a great example in St. Joseph County in Indiana, where that county was able to negotiate a lot of commitments by the data center company in terms of donating to schools, in terms of a buffer and setback provisions, and all kinds of things. Payment of taxes immediately, even though the state was going to grant them some exemption. That county had valuable land and a great site, and the data center company basically bid for it. And that county is going to benefit from it. We don't have that leverage in West Virginia. It's all at the state level, and I think people have a right to be concerned whether or not the state is going to come through for each of these individual locations where there are unique circumstances.
And Georgia
data centers.
On that note, Joe, good job leading us off once again, as it was a lively conversation. Thank you, Joseph. Around the room, you just heard one of our Friday Five, Mr. Ferretti, also back. It is the former Larry Schultz chair now being manned quite capably by a veteran of this industry, a veteran of the Vietnam War as well, Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning, everybody.
Notice how that was an accurate introduction this time.
It was.
I got better sleep last night.
I'm glad.
No more than I am, my friend. The Badger back in his rightful chair. Good to see you again, sir.
It's good to be back. Thank you very much.
Delegate Michael Heitz, the longest tenured member of our crew, former member of the Nixon White House, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good to be back.
Good to have you.
Well, it's good to be anywhere, really.
we just go to the bed, grab a mic, pull him out for the show, put him back in the bed when it's over.
It's like a weekend at Bernie's right now.
Talk about a movie that didn't deserve a sequel. How does Weekend at Bernie's get a sequel? I don't understand that one. Yeah, that movie shouldn't have been finished in the first place, although it was a very good concept. With issue number 2, the Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
Before I get to my issue, David Valenti is taking exception of being blackballed from the legal profession, Joe. So he's after you. Plus the fact I think David deserved a raise as opposed to being blackballed. But that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
The other thing with the data center, Joe's home state of Georgia, where everything is local control, is in the process of building the largest data center complex in the nation. It's going to dwarf anything else. So there's a lot of truth to what Joe said earlier.
All right, time's up.
My time.
Issue number 3, there goes to Mike Heckman.
And actually, I'm going to correct you. The largest data center in the world is going to be built in Mason County, West Virginia.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Still to come, right?
Okay.
That's until somebody builds a bigger one.
Yeah, I may be corrected, Mike. We'll find out. And is now for my issue. In his American First policy, Trump believes that American power should be focused narrowly on America's self-interest, even if it jeopardizes the relationship with our traditional democratic allies. This is being reflected with some recent polls by Politico and an independent polling company in England. It says 57% of Canadians say it's better to depend upon China right now than the U.S. under Trump. 57% say it better, 23% says U.S. under Trump. In Germany, numbers are similar. 40% feels it's better to depend upon China and 24% on the U.S. under Trump. France, 34-25. UK, 42% better on China and 34% on the U.S. I view these as very stark numbers because they've all been allies in the past. The reasons that's given is the Trump's propensity for threatening NATO with economic punishments, withdrawing from major international institutions such as the World Health Organization and the UN Human Rights Council, eliminating the Voice of America. Punitive liberation tariffs that has nothing to do with economics, but such things as annexing Greenland, and discouraging foreign students in U.S. universities and reducing the science funding. My question to my colleagues is, do you share the concern the U.S. is losing favorable influence with our traditional allies? And if that's the case, can the trend be corrected?
Mr. Carl, you lead off.
Well, I completely disagree with the premise of his question that Trump is ignoring the interests of other countries. I don't think we've had a president who was more aware of the interests, in many cases, the competing interests of other countries, or the ones that. But all of them, how they relate to the United States interests. That's what he's doing a great job. Ask Israel, is Trump helping you guys? So I think that our America's interests are certainly what the president should be concerned about, but they include how we relate to and deal with the rest of the world. And we've had no president who's more aware of the worldwide, the global influence and importance of the United States than he is. So, no problem, Bill.
Mr. Doyle.
I agree with the Admiral on this one. It is interesting. I'm going to add some stuff to that. And here's the thing. If, in fact, Mike Carl is right, that President Trump does really have the interest of our traditional allies at heart, he's got a heck of a way of showing it. And if he does, he's communicated it very poorly to those allies. For heaven's sake, not only did Denmark put troops in Greenland to defend and against an attack by the United States, Denmark was able to get British and French and German troops there too to defend again. They actually thought we might invade Greenland. This is not how you treat your allies. And I believe that the NATO, the alliance between the victors in World War II, added to, and with Germany added to it, has been the reason that we have not had a nuclear war in 80 years. So I just think what we're going about is just really dumb.
Mr. Height.
To all these countries, all I have to say is shut the hell up, you whiny bitches. All right? It is so easy to stand behind the big guy on the block and rattle your saber and whine and cry and act all tough. Canada? Are you kidding me? Really? Shut the hell up, Canada. If it weren't for the United States, you wouldn't have a say in anything. Somebody would have taken you over a long time ago. And for all these countries that showed up in Greenland, the 36 hours it would take us to come over and conquer all of you, the hell with you and your military buildup. You know, all Trump is doing is saying to our allies, pony up what the hell you promised when you joined NATO. We're tired of carrying the load. Pony up what the hell you're supposed to be paying. Quit the damn whining all the time. Thank God we have a president that makes our allies. And if you don't like it, then get the hell out.
All you would have had to say is Cuba Gooding, show me the money. That's all I needed.
That's exactly right, baby.
Show me the money. Mr. Ferretti.
Well, Mike, that's all well and good. And I agree with you that the contributions to NATO had to be made by those countries. I applaud President Trump for that. But if that's the attitude we have with these countries, when we go to them and ask for their help to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and they say no, then we should be able to readily accept those consequences and not get all upset about it. I mean, this has now become a transactional relationship. And if we didn't go to the NATO countries and say, look, we're about to get involved in a mess in the Middle East. We're going to need your support. We're projecting certain things are going to happen militarily, and we'd like to have your help. The fact that we didn't do that, we should now be here saying, boy, why aren't we getting any help? The hell with them. They're not here for us. Well, you know,
and that was a very good Height impression too, by the way, Joe. Yeah. Spot on.
There's a way to work with an alliance. I think we can harken back to the Iraqi war with Kuwait, when we kicked them out of Kuwait, and President Bush, 41, had a coalition of 14 countries to get them out of there. Bush, 43, had, remember that, the coalition of the willing in terms of the war with Iraq, where, again, we had NATO support. You work with your partners in a way that they are invested and ready to roll when you need them. You don't start a war and suddenly need their help and say, hey, help us out, when they had no say in anything beforehand, no opportunity to make commitments to this country beforehand. That's the way you work with alliances. This president doesn't seem intent on that. He seems to want to do things his way and then explain later to folks why it's in their best interest too. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way when it comes to war and the commitment of young people to what could be death. You got to get some alliance that is working together in advance of such an endeavor, and we failed to do that here.
John, you have a point?
Yeah, it is very unwise, I think, to treat an ally like a client state. The only time Article 5 of NATO has been invoked was after 9/11 when we were attacked, and every single NATO country immediately said, what can we do? We're here to do whatever you need us to do to help you. And the interesting thing is, now, when we first, 3 weeks ago when we bombed Iran, several of those countries offered assistance, and Trump said, we don't need you. So you can't treat them like a client state.
Goes back to you, Bill.
We were an isolationist country prior in the 30s. We came out of the isolationist state after the Second World War, during the Second World War. We benefited in so many different ways working with the other countries. Our economy had the best GDP of any in the country. We had humanitarian practices. We were highly successful in so many areas. You may not believe these numbers. You may not agree with these numbers, but there is a trend that's reflected on a lot of barometers that we are losing the respect of the other countries. Now the question comes up to mind, does it make us any difference? Are we going to forge ahead by ourselves, totally independent of what the rest of the world thinks about us? We can do that, but there's going to be repercussions.
What about Mike Height's greater point, which is that we have shouldered the cost of NATO, and now admittedly we set up some of these countries for a smaller military like Germany and Japan and said we take care of their defense. But even the small guidelines that we set 70 years ago, we can't get met. So, yeah, respect is one thing, but respect's got to go both ways, doesn't it? And if I'm going to respect you as an ally, don't you have to respect me as your protector by at least paying the minimum in your own defense? We're in debt $39 trillion, and a lot of that debt is also because we have to pay for other countries' defense. Because they won't meet their own minimums that are established.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, and I think Trump deserves credit for it. However, those numbers by themselves can be somewhat misleading. The European countries pay into NATO directly. The European Common Market, the European market, also pays in to NATO. So they're being paid from a couple of different avenues. But the fact that they were underpaying is very real, and I give Trump credit for getting them to raise up.
Badger, number 3.
All right, I'm going to go to sort of a national and state issue at the same time. So for those of you who don't know, Brian Abraham, who is Justice's right-hand man and has been for some time, has been named the new CEO of AEP, which is American Electric Power, I believe, or Appalachian Electric Power. And Justice's marketing director has also left and is now with another legislator, I believe. So with these two key individuals who have left the justice camp, I'm sort of wondering, what does that indicate for Senator Justice? Does this indicate an early exit from the U.S. Senate for Justice, or is he just regrouping with new people? It's sort of interesting at this particular time that these individuals would be leaving. So my question to the panel is, do you think this indicates anything or nothing at all?
And Mike, just a little more emphasis on Brian Abraham. As I understand it, while Justice was living at the Greenbrier during his 2 terms, most of the time, my understanding is that Abraham is the guy who was acting on behalf of Justice and had an outsized role in negotiations.
He was really the governor.
That's what they said.
So
this is just an assistant. In other words.
No. This is literally his right hand man. He went with him to Washington. He has been right there with him all along. He's been a very, very key individual.
John Doyle, you'll go first.
Mike Height, that is an astute observation. My initial reaction is, first of all, I don't think Justice is going to leave because I don't think he wants Patrick Morrissey appointing his replacement. For no other reason, I think he will stay. Although I do think Justice is discovered he is not nearly as happy being a senator as he was being a governor and living in West Virginia. I mean, for heaven's sake, he still comes home and coaches his basketball team. So, yeah, I don't think Justice ever really wanted to move to D.C., but he thought it might be nice to have the title of senator. So anyway, I also think Brian Abraham may have decided he doesn't like living in Washington. And yeah, he's going to be CEO of Appalachian Power, which is a subsidiary of AEP, American Electric Power, and that's the company that has essentially the southern half of the state in terms of providing electric power. I don't. The only reason I think that Justice might leave is if he decided to run against Patrick Morrisey for governor in 2028.
And you think he would leave the Senate to do that?
Well, he wouldn't have to leave the Senate until he was elected and sworn in.
Sure.
And that way he would get to appoint his replacement for the remaining 2 years.
So why have Abraham leave now?
Well, again, it may be that Abraham just said, Jim, I can't live in D.C. anymore, any more than you can.
Michael Carl, Jim Justice was obviously one of your favorite governors ever. I couldn't even start a sentence on that.
We've had some real bad ones, but he's my least favorite governor, certainly in my lifetime, which is quite a while. I can't. I agree, or I'm impressed with the thinking and analysis and projections that we've just heard. I can't wait till he does leave. He is not just the worst governor, but the worst senator we've had, and there's been issues too. but
and you go back to Harley Kilgore.
I go back to Robert C. Byrd.
Well, Harley Kilgore was right before Byrd.
That's right. Okay, that's long time ago. But justice has just been a problem. He was as governor, and I don't think he's hurting the state as much as a senator as he was as governor. But the sooner he leaves, the better I'm going to like it.
Joseph Ferretti.
Well, I love this topic, Mike, because it allows us to speculate, and perhaps the governor is motivated to come back to West Virginia and settle all his debts. He said sarcastically.
Tough crowd.
But look, it's interesting to see how this might game out. Because I think, in my opinion, Jim Justice treated the governorship as a part-time job. I think the U.S. Senate creates more demands on his time and his presence. Reportedly, he is still commuting daily by plane into D.C. so that he's there for votes. That's got to be taxing. Perhaps he doesn't like D.C. either and wants to come back to West Virginia. And it'll be interesting to see how this games out if that occurs, if he doesn't fulfill his full term, which is 6 years, by the way, because the state's political party in control, the Republicans, will pick, they'll submit a list to the governor, and it prompts the question whether they will engage in a Machiavellian approach here and actually put the governor's name on that list for the governor to consider as an appointment, because there are some Republicans in West Virginia that would like to get Morrisey out of the governorship. So it'll be interesting to see if that scenario ever develops.
I can think of about 120 of them off the top of my head. Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that people are longingly looking at the justice years as opposed to looking at the current administration. There's a lot of unhappiness with the current administration. And in hindsight, they see the positives of the justice years and don't see the problems that we had then. And Joe's right, we're speculating, and good point, good topic, Mike, to speculate on. Having no insight whatsoever, my sense is that what we'll see, though, is that justice will run against Morrisey for the governor. If he does, I think justice will win. And I think also justice will hold on to resigning from the Senate seat to the very last moment so that Marcy cannot appoint himself to the Senate. So I think if you look down the line 4 years, 5 years, you'll probably see Justice as governor and somebody different as senator.
Any speculation as to who that person
No,
might be?
I have
who's
no
different?
idea at all.
I'm throwing out the name Larry Pack.
I was going to say, if anybody comes to mind, it'd be Larry Pack, yes.
Yeah. Mike didn't think that Carl didn't think Justice was a good governor. I actually thought Justice was a very good governor in a hands-off way. I thought that the state. No, hear me out on this one. I think Jim was beloved by the people of West Virginia, or at least his dog was. But Jim had great numbers, right? He won his elections by a large amount, and it seemed to me while he was governor, there were a lot of businesses coming into the state. He didn't do anything to stop that, right? He, as governor, gets credit for it because you're the guy in charge. You get credit. You get the blame. You get the credit, right?
Can I build on that very quickly?
I think he let the people who knew how to conduct business conduct it, and he stayed hands off on a lot of that stuff. You didn't hear about we're going to put in this sportsplex, and I'm going to come in and plan what buildings go in there. Justice didn't do that. Morrissey wants to do that. That's what we heard when we brought in Eddie Gokenauer and Jennifer Smith from the Development Authority about the plan off of Exit 8, that Morrissey actually wants to come in and help plan it. It's not a governor's job. That's what economic development people do. Justice didn't say, I want to come in and tell you how big the hotel should be. That's what the economic development people do. And I thought as a result of that, we had a lot of businesses coming. It seemed like every month we were welcoming a new business into the state at one point.
We had Mitch Carmichael, and Marcia got rid of Mitch Carmichael.
Again, you put people in charge
exactly
who can do
right.
know what they're doing.
And Carmichael brought a lot of businesses to the state.
Mitch Carmichael was first rate. Absolutely. Yeah.
Badger, back to you.
Yeah, I good conversation. I don't know. I think some of the speculation may be right. I think Justice probably enjoyed being governor more than he does the U.S. senator, and I think there probably is a possibility that he's going to come back and run for governor. I found the whole Brian Abraham jumping ship and going someplace else curious, because he has been such a key individual in the Justice Administration and now in the U.S. Senate. So I would agree with much of the speculation.
All right, that'll wrap up issue number 3. For issue number 4, Mr. Doyle, you're on the clock next, followed by Mr. Carl. Issue number 4 is we welcome back our Friday crew, the Torts on the phone. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
The Badger in studio, Delegate Michael Height.
Good morning. Great to be back.
Sorry, Mike, I cut off your hello.
That's all right.
And later on, your goodbye's going to get cut off. So it's,
I'm getting used to it.
Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning.
The Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
Good morning.
And with issue number 4, Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning. And about 65 hours ago, by my count, Venezuela won the World Baseball Classic Championship. And it occurred, and immediately, President Donald Trump issued an invitation for Venezuela to become the 51st state. Now, this kind of confused me because I thought he wanted Canada to be the 51st state. But since Venezuela won the baseball championship, apparently Canada is now chopped liver. But that's okay. But it occurs to me, Venezuela won this right after President Trump decapitated the country and took their leader and put him in prison, along with his wife. And there's a very nice lady who was leading the opposition, whose name I cannot remember, and I'm going to rely on the crew to remind me of her name. And Trump says she's a very nice lady, but not capable of running the country, as if he would know. So anyway, it occurs to me, here comes the opportunity for a trade. The President Trump, should offer to let Venezuela have a genuinely free election and release Maduro so Maduro can run if he wants against this very nice lady. And in return, Venezuela transfers the WBC championship to the United States. Just like when this very nice lady won the Nobel Peace Prize, and Trump said, I really should have won it. This very nice lady very graciously said, "Of course, sir, you should have won it. Here, I give it to you." So we've got the precedents for a trade already with baseball. Now, fast forward. Let's say this time next year, Cuba has won the World Baseball Classic Championship. Not totally out of the question, given the quality of baseball in Cuba. Now, let's say in the meantime, we have decapitated Cuba and have 40,000 troops occupying that island. An opportunity for the president to then say, "Cuba, we will take our troops out and let you run your country if you give us the WBC championship, and therefore we will have won the WBC championship 2 years in a row." Not on the field, but by principled and skillful negotiation by our president. I throw that out for the group to consider.
Maria Corina Machado, I think is the
Thank you, Maria Corina Machado. Goal!
Thanks, Rob. That was going to be my contribution to this discussion.
Never forget who the host of the show is.
Oh, and I was going to hear it in Tennessee with a Tennessee accent.
What exactly is the question we are considering?
Whether or not either of these trades should be made.
Colin says the next WBC isn't until 2030, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was every year. Yeah. Well, I'm wrong, and I apologize to the group and to the audience and to the entire world.
Do you have a backup issue there, John, now that this is a bad premise?
No. Let's just say for the one trade, I'm still sticking with that.
Mr. Ferretti, tongue-in-cheek.
Okay. Well,
Bill, by the way, do you have Norwood's number still handy?
I've already called him. I've already texted him. Come on in, Norwood. John was in Charleston way too long.
No, I'm not asking for any particular reason. I was just curious out loud if you had Norwood's number.
I don't think anybody's going to miss the WBC for the next 4 years. It was kind of an exhibition, and it was kind of an indication, by the way, that baseball is an international sport now dominated by many of the South American and Latin ball players. And I think that was proven that America's best is at best on equal footing with some of these other countries and the kind of team that they can field. Now, as for this trading and who's going to be the 51st and 52nd state, there's a list developing here. Canada, Venezuela, Cuba apparently is on their hit list. So I just wonder where this adventuresome effort at foreign policy and decapitating leaders and taking over countries is going to end. John, I don't know that it's a trade anymore than it seems to be these countries maybe becoming a part of the United States at the point of the spear, which is an approach that I think we have to rethink going forward.
There I am, Mr. Height.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any trades, and any trades that Trump may have indicated, I think were sort of tongue-in-cheek. So I certainly wouldn't take any of it seriously. Now, whether or not we're going to do something with Cuba in the near future or not, I don't know. Trump makes comments like this all the time, so I don't always take him seriously about any of these things. As far as the WBC, who cares? Who cares? No, we're not going to release Machado, and we're not going to give him an opportunity to go back. The reason
you mean Maduro?
Or Maduro, thank you. Yes, we're not going to release Maduro. We're not going to give him an opportunity to go back. He's going to stand trial here and face the Reaper here in the United States. So, I don't take everything Trump says seriously, but it seems like the opposite side, the Democrats in particular, take every single thing he utters at face value, and I just think that's a mistake. If you really believe that I think he's just bombastic at times and says things just to get a reaction, and I don't think we need to take any of them seriously. Now, as far as any of these places being the 51st state, I don't see that happening either. There's a way to become a state. We have a We have a process in place. I don't see any of these places wanting to become a state. The only state that's ever circumvented the process is West Virginia, and I don't see any other state circumventing the process anytime soon. So nothing we really have to worry about.
Let me just pick up on one thing you said there, Mike, and I've heard this a lot, which is from Republicans, you shouldn't pay attention to everything that Trump says. He says a lot of things. He's bombastic. He exaggerates. But if that's true, and I think it is, I agree with you 100% on that. But if that's true, then you can't also say when people complain about the policy he enacts once he's president, well, he campaigned on that. He told you what he's going to do. Well, how am I supposed to know which things he says he means and which things he says he doesn't really mean if I'm told by his supporters and backers that he doesn't mean everything he says? So you can't invalidate my complaints when he's the president enacting policies I don't agree with, well, this is what the people voted for. It's what he campaigned on. It's what he said he's going to do. And Trump does what he says he's going to do. Well, not always. How am I supposed to know which is real and which isn't?
Well, I think there's a difference between him saying, I'm going to deal with the situation in Iran and I'm going to make Venezuela the 51st state or Canada the 51st state. I think there's a difference there. And you sort of have I don't disagree with you, and I'm certainly not a huge Trump supporter. I like his policies, but, all in all, I think he's a pathetic human being at times. But he enacts good policies, and I think we need strong leadership right now. We haven't had strong leadership in a long, long time, and he represents that. So, that's why I think he gets support, even though as Republicans we look at some of the things he says and we shake our head. So I get where you're coming from.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I disagree with all the things that were posed in the question, but most of all, I disagree with releasing Maduro, and that just undermines the whole situation. And obviously, Trump's not going to do any of those things, but that's the last one he'll do.
I'm surprised that dude ain't at Gitmo. Billy.
John, as I was preparing for this for last night for the issues, I looked at that issue and said, he'll never ask that question. so I more or less dismissed it, and so I'm not prepared. But
that's okay. I wasn't either.
Yeah.
We can tell.
I'm much happier to address the Mike Height's rebuttal, because I think my view is when Trump makes these statements, if something goes south, then the standard argument is, well, he was joking. He surely did not mean that. If things don't go south, they say, sure, he was right on target. So he lets the Republicans wait and see, or the MAGA group, I think not all the Republicans, the MAGA group kind of waits and see what the reaction would be before they disclaim his statement. As far as strong leadership, I always hear, I like his policies, but I don't like his personality. I don't agree with either one. I've looked at his policies very close, and there are not many policies, with the exception of closing the border. That's probably the only policy he has that I fully agree with.
All right, Mr. Doyle, back to you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I presumed that everybody would realize that I was joking when I've talked about this, but I'm surprised. I'm surprised that a couple of people actually took me seriously on that. So I guess I'm in the same situation as Trump. I guess I need to label my jokes more clearly.
John, this is a serious show here.
Yeah, sure it is. I want to close with this, though. And on this, I am serious. I believe we as Americans should be very happy and proud of the great cultural accomplishment we have in making the sport we invented, baseball, one of the preeminent sports around the world. I do think this is a triumph of American culture. And with that, I will close.
That's cool. Yeah. You can do a lot of goodwill through sports. Mm-hmm. Unless you get a bad referee. All right. Issue number 5, Mr. Michael Carl.
Well, that very definitely leads into my short, limited final point. How does Trump's egomaniacal style
You guys need to kill Eric O'Rourke today. He's going to go ballistic.
influence support for the substantive policy agenda that he is following?
In other words, good policy, but too much bombast.
No, I'm asking, does the bombast undermine the
Policy.
support for the policy?
For substantive policy.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Ferretti.
Yeah, I'll give you one example where his ego is really ruinous of a policy. Remember him going to sit down with Kim Jong-un in North Korea when a lot of folks who are foreign policy experts said, don't do that. You legitimize a dictator who kills his own people by sitting down with him. Yet Trump, in his ego and his desire to talk about love letters that they exchanged, did that. And the message to the rest of the world, including Iran, is that if you develop a nuclear weapon, we'll sit down with you, we'll break bread with you, and we'll try to have some sort of tacit agreement about non-proliferation and non-aggression. That's the message that was sent from North Korea. And can you hardly blame Iran now in terms of their desire for self-preservation in the Middle East to develop a nuclear weapon? Can you blame other countries from going further with the development of their nuclear weapons, like Pakistan and other countries that might have ill intent with not only their neighbors, but countries throughout the globe? That's where your ego gets you in trouble. And I think in this case, that trip was ill-advised and it sent the wrong message internationally. I agree. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They don't show the capacity to contain themselves. And in fact, they espouse death to Israel and the United States. So you can applaud the effort here to try to deal with that situation. But you have to have a coherent foreign policy, and this is where Trump's ego gets him in trouble.
Mr. Badger.
Yeah, I would agree. His bombastic style does get in the way of some good policy, and it makes some of the good things he's doing seem less desirable to people because of his style. But I do think he's doing good things, and I'll have to disagree with Joe. I didn't have a problem with him going over and meeting with Kim Jong-un. That's just one of the things he does. You know, we haven't met with Kim Jong-un to try to negotiate peace with North Korea, and I think there was nothing wrong with that. And I don't see any relationship with North Korea and Iran. Iran was trying to build nuclear weapons way before Rocket Man came along, and Iran has said from the get-go, 1979, their desire to have nuclear weapons was to wipe out Israel from the face of the earth. It had nothing to do with their own defense and peace, and to keep themselves from being attacked. That is absolutely not correct. They have always said that they want to eliminate Israel from the face of the earth. That was the purpose. They were obtaining nukes, and that's why we're taking them out right now, because they were getting so close, and I don't have a problem with any of it.
Admiral.
Yeah, I do have problems with his policies, and I'm going to go list several of them right now. He reduced the National Science Foundation budget, the math and physics, by 75%. He cut the NIH budget by 40%. He cut the EPA air quality by 55%. He repeatedly makes attacks on the judiciary. He targets law firms and lawyers for retribution. He challenges judicial review. He defiance of court orders. He sends the National Guard into several cities that we've seen, and the the ICE, part of that. He's fired a lot of federal employees, nearly 100,000 at one time. Now he's found that the job cannot get done, so he's in the process of hiring back, but there's loss of corporate memory. He's tried to manipulate the economic numbers by firing the chief of Bureau of Labor Statistics. The tariffs are on and off. Thank goodness the Supreme Court waded in and gave some limitation, but he was doing a tariff for retribution, political purposes, and not for economic purposes. He canceled he stopped the Voice of America. He's cut back on the health problem. The list goes on and on and on. So I find it hard to believe or to accept the fact his policies are good. With exception, I do like his policy of closing the border.
Mr. Doyle.
Yeah, I agree with everything the Admiral said, but also I do think that Mike Carl's question raises a very important point here, and that is, I think the American people want two things from a president. They want to agree with the majority of the policies of that president, but I also think they want a president who acts presidential. And that, I think, is Trump's weakness. It does undercut some of the policies that he advocates, which would be popular with the majority of the people, and maybe with which I might disagree. A good example is yesterday. In a meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan, he decides to make a joke about Pearl Harbor. Now, that was just dumb. I also think that one of the reasons that Kamala Harris was not able to defeat President Trump in the 24 election is I don't think the American people perceived Kamala Harris as being presidential. Not because of her race, not because of her gender. I just think because of the way she talks and all kind of the folks that she has around her. I just think the American people said, if we're going to replace this non-presidential president, we want somebody who's presidential. And that was a chance that the Democrats had that they just blew. So anyway, yeah, I do think the next president of either party, whatever policies they're advocating, will be someone that the American people perceive as, yes, you come across as presidential.
Back to you to wrap it up, Michael Carl.
I appreciate John's clarifying my question and recognizing the merit of it. But
well, certainly, Mike.
Thank you. I mean, I don't agree with your answer, but I agree. I appreciate the appreciation. But clearly, Trump's style has, I think, far more undermined his support than it has added to his support. So
I think that's borne out by the fact that a lot of folks, even those who are tepid on him, will say if he would just get off of his phone, it would be so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my view of the situation. I mean, I strongly support much of his policy agenda, but I am very concerned about how it is somewhat undermined by his style.
In honor of John Doyle's World Baseball Classic question, I'm going to leave you with the theme from The Natural, right? One of the top baseball movies of all time. Take that out there for a moment as you guys get your final thoughts together, 8 seconds apiece. We come back to the break, except for the Badger usually gets about 2 to 3. Final thoughts on the phone, 8 seconds apiece. Joe, go.
Good luck to Spring Mills High in bringing another state championship back to the Panhandle.
Mr. Doyle.
I'm thinking of canceling my subscription to the Washington Post, not because it's become a right-wing rag, which it has become, but because it doesn't cover the Nationals anymore.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, credit to John Hardy and Eddie Gochenhauer for the town hall meeting tonight.
Mr. Carl.
I want to say I continue to appreciate most of all in this interesting panel the person to my right who's changed from time to time in terms of who it is, but what they have to say is the best of the room.
And we don't even have time to say Mike Height's name.
Mike Height.
Dave Ramsey show us next. This is Talk Radio, WRI Martinsburg and TV 10. We'll talk again in 70 short hours.
Mike to my right.